Okay, we are up and running, and thank you all for attending. Uh, Today I'm still covering the coronavirus, and I'm covering the Trump situation and circumstances that are involved in what's going on. Yeah, most people have what's going on in their own life. Yeah, how's it going? Can you hear it? Yeah, okay. Most people have what's going on in their life. Yeah, and but we're in a world period, yeah, where we have governments and political situations that communicate back and forth instantaneously. So there's a lot of possibility of making change or making more things worse, yeah, by manipulating people through that communication, through propaganda and through manipulation and coercion, blackmail, all kinds of things that go on, yeah, in politics and in economy. So those types of things really get in the way of humanity's needs. Yeah, housing, food, just daily reality, education, those normal things. But uh, this process that goes on is a process called chaos. Yeah, it stems from the Dark Lodge, and if I talk about that, most people go, "Whoa, that's now we're talking New Agey," and but there's a real reality to it. There's a real um, impression behind lower psychicism, yeah, and it goes into higher, deeper levels of psychic development and ways in which people express themselves. And in the worst very place, think of Iran. You have the Ayatollah Khomeini, and you have extreme religious fanaticism. That can, with their nuclear warheads and everything, can do great harm. Yeah, and it's not a force of good. There's nothing really going on there, other than a very fanatical, strong psychic impression that goes into the people, come from the Ayatollah, goes into the people, and brings about what's going on. So, but it doesn't just come from there. It comes from other places that are directly involved with Iran or involved with Israel, yeah, or involved with other countries. And those countries, these major countries that have their ability to create a nuclear war and create terrorism, yeah, and create Holocaust, yeah, are countries that have extreme desire toward manipulating the outcome in their favor. Yeah, to have in their own crazy ass mind. They think they can be in favor. Russia thinks it could be in favor, but it's not alone in it. It is in favor with China. It is in favor with North Korea. It's in favor with other places that are part of this influence of dark mind, dark thought form building, hate, anger, delusion, and it expresses itself from levels of psychicism. Yeah. So, if you imagine, Hitler was an extreme paranoid person, and also under delusions of grandeur of thinking he was the Messiah. And he spent all of his time in the occult, and he spent most of his time looking for these really insane things that most people would think, well, what would be the good of that, But they were actually artifacts that would give him power of evil and give him power over good. And his main one he was looking for were the talismans of Jesus Christ, but at the same time, he's also looking for channeling and mediumship and walk-in telepathy and psychicism, and all done within the confines of Hitler's regime at the higher level. They were all a bunch of mediums and psychics, and it was an occult. So that's behind Germany. That's behind Germany. Now, what happens after Germany fell? All those influences go to Russia. They go to Russia. Yeah. And Russia takes on these things like the nuclear, not Germany. After it's over with, Germany doesn't go on with nuclear. It becomes a regular country, you know. But what was evil in Germany made manifest in Russia. And it continued itself, you know, in a process of psychicism. You know, the cult of psychicism, reincarnation does exist, and so these people do die, but then they come back and they need to foster what they started, you know, continue that process. And in that process, by the time we get to the 70s, by the time we get to the 80s, the reincarnates are there. The psychics in Russia are there. And they're mediums. They're talking to the dead. They're moving objects with their hands. They're able to do things like stop the heart of people at will, just by thought. Yeah. And this, you know, as I speak of this, people just go, well, that's crazy. You know, no, we've never proven psychicism. You know, where does this? Why are you talking like that? You know, but I am the reincarnation of the Buddha, yeah, and the reincarnation of Jesus, and the reincarnation of Krishna, and the reincarnation of a whole lot of people that come to defend this planet from what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I'm busy actively counteracting this, because there is a hierarchy of evil. There is a hierarchy of beings like Hitler and others, and they die, but they reincarnate. Yeah, and the system keeps going on. So that psychicism that was focused in the Russian period, it never stopped. There was never a waning period. From the 40s, it went on, continued. They just left house and moved to Russia. And they took their psychic people with them, and they took their what they became new technologies of psychic generators. Yeah, the ability to generate psychicism, even if you have very little psychic ability, by using a psychic generator, which is already programmed by certain intentions of manifestation once it's turned on, then it doesn't take much of the individual's soul, energy, prana, to amplify this mechanism and affect an entire city. Yeah, and I talk about this stuff, and people just, you know, they think, well, really, can this be true? You know, can there be such a thing going on? And why? Why? Yeah. Well, I'm going to show you. You know, there have been the investigation. There are the people, the heads of the KGB, and they talk about this, and they show the film of those people who were the psychics and the people who killed people and stopped the hearts and ended Russia's relationship of Gorbachev and others, leading to Putin. Putin was the head of the KGB. He was the head of the psychics. He got everything under his hands and pulled together an influence of energy which goes way back, just like in Hitler's time, goes back. And you know how in Hitler's time they would go back to Norwegians periods and old ancient periods and try and gather those energies, those influences, and bring them back through their body and empower themselves from previous incarnations, trying to find their true lineage, their true, you know, whatever they believed to be true. Well, in Russia, they did the same thing. Their background lineage is witchcraft. Yeah, it's the background lineage of Russia. It's, yeah, and most people don't know that. You know, it stems all the way out of Egypt. They're called, you know, gypsies. Yeah, and their origin is Egypt, and it's ancient in time and power of invocation and control of demigods, opening a gate, you know, just like doing Ouija. You know, just one person doing Ouija is not a good thing. You know, demons come. You know, a gate opens, a door opens. You can't close that door, you know, once you've opened it. You know, so in this place, Russia, standing under Putin, is a large group of witches who do ceremonies on a day-to-day basis to empower him with the open door of Satan, to give him power. Yeah? And this happens in human form, witches, right? And then on a science form, which is billions of dollars, most of the money that Russia puts into their economy goes into the building of these psychotronic generators. And, you know, again, I'll show you that too, where the Russians say, well, you know, from Germany and Russia, we built these things, and then there was a collapse of Russia. And what happened to them? Yeah, they built so many, all the money was put into it, and then Russia collapsed. The wall of Germany went down, and all these things. Well, it went deeper into the hands of darkness. Yeah, controlling the state, controlling the government, making the end of certain political leaders. And now we have Putin, who's in office, and he has somehow gained the power over the people to where they will never vote him out of office. He put a bill in, people signed for it. Oh, I agree. You know? And the same thing happened in China. Very strange. And these are two of the closest people in this group of psychic manipulation of world domination. Yeah. And I'm not talking Illuminati. I'm not talking, you know, scary shit. I'm talking real truth. You know, this is the truth. Yeah, this is what you have against you. This is what flows. You know, and it goes through, and I can prove it. It goes through Putin. Yeah. So, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. We have a president who sits under churchgoers, people who are heads of churches, who believe that they channel the influence of Jesus Christ and God. They believe it. They believe they do this. Now, either they are or they aren't. And if they aren't, guess what? They're channeling Lucifer and a governing relationship of control and desire and a plan. It's either one or the other, you know? I mean, one or the other. You know, so where I come from, it's Lucifer. And comes directly into this guy, Trump. And it's all going on in a very big way. And he gets elected this way. Millions of people go, yes, I want Trump. You know, religious people say, yes, I want Trump. But what's causing them to think this? I can show you in the CIA and the KGB, their focus of using these psychic generators is to create chaos and an illusionary, fanatical influence within religion or political injustice. Like black people, we all matter, you know, emphasizing that in a really big way. So they'll riot. We've got problems, yeah, but should it go to a riot? Yeah. What's moving that to happen? Yeah. And what's moving us to not wear a mask when we follow a certain group? Yeah. The influence is that the psychic generators focus on the attraction of negativity, and they build it. You know, so if you have positivity, if you're a good person and you're doing right in your lifestyle and things like that, these psychic generators cannot affect you. But they affect people around you, and they affect the government that governs you, and the money that comes out of that government to protect you, and give you education, and give you housing, and give you food, and help all of your health. You know, all that is normal. That's normal. We are in the highest economic class in the world at this point in time. We should not be having these problems. We have these problems simply because of this. And it's going to get worse. Yeah. And it's only going to get worse because we don't understand what's going on. Yeah. And if we don't really understand what's going on, we can't put our minds into a reality of oh, revelation, you know, oh, wow, you know, this is really what's going on. Well, when that happens inside of a person, a light clicks in their mind, the higher mind, which is like voting. And it affects the universe. It affects all the children. It affects all the mothers and fathers who might be falling out of grace into this terrible abyss. Yeah? Yeah, because we're all going to keep getting sick if people don't put their mask on, if they don't do the right thing. And it doesn't take much to do the right thing. It takes compassion, it takes empathy, it takes caring, it takes kindness, it takes a conscience. Yeah? And that's what I'm here for. I'm expressing this in a very powerful way. That's the Christ principle. Yeah? And its expression is to save you from Satan. And you have no idea This shit is going on, since the beginning of time. Yeah. And it's a very old Sumerian thing. It's a very old, all the way back, way ancient of time. And reincarnation is constant. Yeah. There's nothing that stops it. Yeah. And so what is in the past is now. And you don't know the past. Yeah. You don't know why pyramids are from where they're from. You don't know, what is happening today is in relationship to the extreme amount of cult-like governing powers that took place throughout time. Throughout Egypt, throughout Iraq, throughout Iran, throughout Israel, all throughout time. Governed by desire to control things. That's how slavery came into manifestation. That's how all these greeds and corrupt qualities, the way we treat children, and all the things that go on, it's because our morals have been evaporated by this strong psychic energy that goes into people who have governing forces over you, over the land, over your economy, over the laws, They're channeling. And in this United States, I built a system. I built a system throughout the whole planet. I built temples on ley lines. This planet is set in a sacred matrix. Its moon, its placement, its, the Great Pyramid. It's not just a Great Pyramid. It's aligned to the sacredness of this planet. And the sacredness of this planet is aligned to the ley lines, and they're aligned to the energy that goes to all the temples on earth that go through the past, that has been counteracting these evil forces since the beginning of time. Sacred geomancy, You can go back to the time of Hermes, an incarnation, You can go back to the time of Adam, an incarnation. All of them establishing sacred geomancy to protect us, from the evil. It's not a fantasy story, I'm Jesus and Buddha and all of that, but we're here in the now, And enlightenment is to raise you up, to put light on your very existence, and come to see what really is going on. What is devitalizing your body? The whole of this earth is made of sacred reality. It has chakras, just like you have chakras. It has sacred energy in the earth. And each area is different. Each area, each state of the United States is different. It's sacred in it of itself. It has its own ray package, like a personality and a soul, like a human being. I'm a Native American, so this is where I'm coming from. But to get this understood, across this border where people are in the midway point, playing with both the fire and the light, this is difficult to get people to realize what is going on. So it's a psychic problem. And I come from a place where, me as Lama Dorje, little boy and little Buddha, and they came and they got me, and they enthroned me, And this is the highest throne seat, it's the highest hat of Buddhism. It's the hat of Maitreya, Buddha Maitreya, the reincarnation of all the previous Buddhas and all Buddhas that will ever be. So this is the day, this is in the year 2000. So I inaugurate, I'm incarnated, it's my time to finally have this happen. I go through a process to where I'm initiating now, I'm the teacher, now I'm Buddha in Tibet. I have millions of students, and the highest of those students are Rinpoches. So I gather those Rinpoches and I give them these Vajras and I give them the etheric weavers, just like that. And I give them my pujas, and I do puja, and I do teachings, and I anoint the monastery so it cannot be taken over by dark forces. Can't. And everything that then illuminates outwardly becomes manifestations of people's souls. The children, the old people, the people who die come back as souls. That's the work of Buddhism. We bless things, you know, we create sentiency, yeah? And it has to do with your reincarnation, that you reincarnate in a higher and higher plane in every incarnation. It's the purpose of practicing Buddhism, yeah? So, amongst these people, yeah, I get enthroned and I am empowered, yeah? I get to recapitulate, yeah? And it's not about me coming out in the news and telling everybody Jesus Christ is walking around and now you all got to know, you know, Jesus Christ is here, deal with it kind of thing. You know, it's a very hard, specific work I have to pull off. You know, I have to build this monastery. I have to establish a psychic reverence within the planet, yeah, creating a sacred planet. You know, when we have governing this planet, manipulating in this planet, forces that are so lying and so deceptive and so manipulative and so much in the process of absorbing people's goodness, you know, just changing everything, not aligning anything toward the right of what it is that you have accomplished in goodness. You should recapitulate your goodness, not be cursed by this ongoing process. So as Jesus, you know me, is going on the cross and dying and resurrecting, that was to release everybody from this curse. It was what put me on the cross, yeah? It was all of the, you know, the wonderful people out there that were the heads of state and the heads of government, yeah? Herod and all the people that were heads in the incarnated level at that time, yeah? And we all reincarnate, yeah? So it was just that moment in time, yeah? And everybody's there, you know? And I come walking into hell. I'm walking in the middle of the heads of state, in the worst possible place on earth, you know, where all the witches are at. Egypt, you know, where all the gypsies then come out of and go off to Russia, yeah, and take on that as a plan, you know, to further what took place in Egypt, all the things with Noah, all the things with in the Bible, and all the difficulty of Egypt and slavery and all the things that took place is a part of reincarnation. It's a part of, look at it, it keeps going on, yeah. You know, so there's a lot to shifting this thing, and it has to do with receiving this psychic energy that's being shot at you. Yeah, instead of having it be able to go to you, I'm having it shot at me. Yeah, I am directly in relationship to the CIA. Yeah, they know me. I'm on the phone with them. You know, we have conversation. Yeah, and in that, I've given them the okay to carry on a constant telepathic relationship with me, and I will carry on a constant telepathic relationship with the United States. And whoever president is president, and whoever is in the government is what it is, but I am an ever-present process within the CIA and going out. So in that particular process, you know, I am helping to gain right relationship to information, you know, be able to uncover what's going on behind the scenes, you know, that there are witches, that Putin really is doing this stuff, and it's the CIA that's gathering this information, getting it out there for me, yeah, and making this a documented reality, and it's constantly connected to me and everything I say or teach, you know. So there's a lot that influences the future outcomes of how this thing is governed. Yeah, it's a matter of enlightenment. Yeah, and there's a big government here in the United States, and there's a big government in other countries that are a part of this, in the UN and other aspects of governing body. Yeah, and it is the Christ body. It's the influence that Christ gives to the body of this earth, and it heals the nations. In time, it will heal the nations. In time, yeah, in time. Yeah, this is a very slow process, yeah, but it's through this work, you know, this transmission, using my pujas. They have a satellite, a series of satellites that have these generators in them that focus on the earth, and it's constant. Yeah. So as those things focus on the Earth, my satellite rotates around the Earth, affecting everything that's out there. Yeah. So I'm causing that lower psychic energy to be evaporated. Yeah. And the intention that's coming out of it that is directing people, places, and things. There are fewer channels on the planet. There are fewer mediums on the planet. There are fewer cult leaders on the planet. They're fewer because they don't have the energy to foster their delusions of grandeur, to manifest to that level, where they used to, but they don't now. Yeah, and that's because of what's going on. There's soul therapy going on, even with demons. Yeah, yeah. This is it's a difficult process, because everybody has their thing. You have your religion and this and that, but I'm scientist, and this is a real reality you're dealing with, and it's affecting you from science. They're using science to do it. Yeah. So let me show a little video here.
The Berlin Wall, a barrier that insulated the Soviet Union from the rest of the world. Ultra-secret facilities contained behind that wall were developing weapons of incredible power. The infamous Moscow signal was a microwave energy directed at unsuspecting employees inside the U.S. Embassy. Even Richard Nixon, during an official visit to the Soviet Union, was a target of this program. All the details regarding this operation have yet to be uncovered. Nino Kulagina, directed by her KGB handlers, was able to use the power of her mind to control the heartbeat of a frog. And the KGB, in turn, found ways to turn such power against unsuspecting human targets. At first glance, these objects looked harmless, like children's toys. But we now know that the KGB invested millions of rubles in their testing and development.
The discovery of the energy associated with psychic phenomenon will be as important, if not more important, than the discovery of atomic energy.
1963 was an important year in the Soviet paranormal research because this was the year when the man with no face, Professor Grigory Goncharov, began his secret research in one of the KGB laboratories, research for the Psychotronics weapons.
Just as the common battery stores electricity, these psychotronic generators absorb positive or negative psychic energy.
Various psychotronic devices have different effects, and if it was programmed to cause illness, you would start to feel kind of depressed and want to cry for no reason, and you feel anxious. And in some cases, it can even bring on heart attacks, and that's kind of a reaction if it's a very, very strong type.
A psychotronic generator can influence a whole crowd of people. It can affect a person's psyche, memory, or attention span.
General Kalugin was one of the best sources of the information about secret KGB programs, and they hated him with passion. They do it even up to this day. They try to smear his name. And when I say they, I mean former KGB officers. General Kalugin has done much for the Russian democracy, and because of him, people in the West found out about secret paranormal programs of the KGB to an extent that they never had before.
Obviously, the Soviet security services could not stay indifferent to those efforts to produce a new, deadly or whatever mysterious weapon. So they tried to explore the mysteries of human power of other people and simulate a generator of the same nature, which produced a similar effect. But as far as I know, the military did produce something of that nature, and according to my knowledge, it was very successful.
Declassified KGB documents indicate the construction and testing of larger, more powerful psychotronic generators.
The KGB and the Soviet government were very much interested in telepathy because it would allow them control over population. Professor Goncharov, the man with no face, revealed back in 1996. Then 10 years before, in 1986, the Soviets were ready to launch a satellite. Within 5 years, a satellite would have on board a psychotronic weapon that would be able to emanate radiation to control a population in the area of 20,000 square kilometers. The US government was afraid of Sputnik, not only because the Russians beat them to the space race, but because of ways how the Soviets would use such a satellite. And Americans could easily see Soviets taking such weapons into orbit.
Yep, I'm back. There we go. Okay, all right. So the biggest process, is the fact that there's a lot that goes on, that the psychic energy influences us in many ways, negative, positive, and delusionary. Yeah, it can impress upon people. I could show you video after video in Russian research where they have people who are the receiver and the sender. And the sender is the person who decides what this person is going to desire to do. Right? Go get something, like or dislike something. It's all in the sender. Yeah? So the sender sets up a room with like 20 different little toy cars in different colors of all kinds, and only one of those cars is the one that the sender knows needs to be selected. And it's the same with a whole bunch of things. A book, a taste of different things, and after tasting it, you don't taste what you think you're supposed to be tasting, and you're actually it really goes pretty far, yeah? So through their psychic, manipulative mind control, because this is what it was. If you go into the CIA, they confessed the situation and closed it down, that they themselves was involved in the same project, doing the same thing in America, yeah? And, it wasn't going good because they were asking many of these people who were the ones who projected to do things to other people far away, like stop their hearts, cause harm. But, what karma does that do to the person who's doing that? What right do you have to ask a person to do that? There is a real big thing that goes on when you're messing with anything. Yeah, and especially with this psychic force, you must absolutely be assured that it's an empty force. Yeah, it has no effect upon matter or anything that you can only witness. It's only a revelation. It's only a view. It's not to be anything else. You're not to bring it into, because those are using lower psychic forces that then manipulate the possibility of what will go on in the future. And you start getting these delusions of prophetic scenarios, yeah, and to the point to where you believe you're under state of destiny. So almost all of these leaders, these people who, like Putin and others, are under this influence, that psychic influence, that is moved through this lower psychicism that moves them into delusions of grandeur, yeah, and they're reincarnation after reincarnation. So for them to then pass that same psychic influence that's in them onto others and then manipulate the whole of the world, they needed psychic generators. And before that, they had witches. Yeah. Before that, they had mediums and witches and sacrifice and conjuring of lower elemental forces and directing them upwardly in order to create change in society so people would follow people, places, and things. Yeah. And that was control of nature. Yeah. So where all of this stuff happens, and whether it be Tibet, where in Bond society, it was the largest group of witches and warlocks in existence. Yeah, and Padmasambhava, myself, had to go there and dispel them, work against them, create Lamaism in the middle of it, and teach that this is true, that these people are actually witches and warlocks, and that they're conjuring up from the lower side, and they're moving rocks, and they're stopping hearts, and they're doing all that. And that was, if you read about it, that's what Padmasambhava went there to stop. That's what we got going on today. Yeah, we have Russian people who are sitting in buildings who are projecting out many different things into society, but mainly social leaders, especially social leaders that are committed in a specific direction that the Dark Laws has chosen, because you got to split things in half. You got to have Democrat, Republican. Dark Laws chooses one side and forces people into a negative congregation of that. They all carry guns. They all, do these sort of things. Yeah, and they're moved under glamours, specific glamours. It doesn't take much for them to change people to go in a certain direction. Yeah, so they're being moved by their own lower nature. Yeah, and I could show you again documentation of the KGB talking about this is exactly what they do. They put 80% of their time and energy as wanting to be world dominators, yeah, and rather than military and rather than nuclear, yeah, they put 80% of their time and energy into psychic manipulation and creating manipulation, whether it be propaganda on all levels, whether it be using now the internet or manipulating, information and making people believe certain things are going on when they're not, like all the things Trump says, are all just things that are made up. And they're kind of a little true, but they're not, and they just tweak people to be in a state of delusion with anger at its base. Yeah, so he has three he's developing, he has two really strong processes that he is channeling with as a personal relationships. And the stronger you are in a relationship, the stronger a psychic force passes between you. Yeah, and if you choose to have a devotional relationship with someone, in your solar plex, whether it be the Pope or the Dalai Lama or Putin, yeah, or maybe a similar person who's the head of state, a president, the guy in China, or how about the guy in North Korea, just simply because they're in the similar position of control and a political position, that person, because they have so much self-identity, they identify with things outside themselves that they want to be like. Yeah, he loves the way they in North Korea walk like a bunch of Germans, during Hitlerian periods, and how they come out just for him and salute in the way that they do. And he loves that they do the same thing in Russia. And he makes comments. He wishes that's the way people would treat him here. Yeah. And he stands behind both these people when they say, we are going to be dictators and rule our countries till the end of our life. And he goes, oh, good idea. I think I'd like to do that too. That's what he says. Not like, oh, wow, are you kidding me? Very bad. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm out of this room. Because if you are in it, if you're in that room and you're having those kind of relationships, you're actually making it possible for them to manifest these things. Your support system within it. Yeah. So it's not just like patting them on the back, giving them money and giving them support and making other countries believe in them. It's actually a psychic, soulless transmission, that goes back and forth. And that affects, how we're going to be affected, how humanity gets affected. how we look at each other, yeah, how we, whether we tolerate the hardship that goes on or do we get intolerable to a degree of anger and hostility and aggression, yeah. And that's where we're right now, we're being pushed to that because we're getting closer and closer to having to decide whether or not Trump's going to be president again. That brings him closer to people who are good or bad. And it brings out a purging, you know, that is beyond your, you know, it's psychic energy, yeah? And it's not of any kind of normal realm. It's very manipulative, yeah? It's very aggressive, yeah? It expects you to go along with things, yeah? Like Big Brother, but on a psychic level. It's like, you know, not good, not good. Well planned, yeah? And I'm going to continue teaching this over the next few months, yeah, because there's an enormous amount given by the CIA to help understand this and see where this is, you know, that it is an industry of why Russia isn't in other things, why they don't build cars, yeah, yeah, why they don't do things like that, why they're not well known for their technology, why they're not, you know, because they're focusing on psychicism, yeah. They don't have a lot of real good Catholic churches, or if they do, it is not a good Catholic church, yeah. And their process is to dominate over anything that has to do with God. There is to be no God, yeah. A completely godless country, yeah. And that fosters the influence of what they want the whole world to be, is godless. So if you look at other European nations, yeah, England, they're witchcraft in and out, and they're having a very hard time getting out of that, yeah, because everybody under in all realms, high and low, they want to be a warlock or a witch. They like the, you know, the process of thinking of earth energy and, you know, all those astrology and everything that goes along with it, yeah. And there's other European countries that just say, hey, we're just atheist. We simply will not believe in God. As a whole country, we've decided that we're atheist, yeah. And there are countries that have decided that, yeah. So there's an enormous amount of influences going on to deaden the soul in people's ability to stand up and have a soul, yeah, express their soulfulness, yeah, because it's reincarnation. The influence of being hit by these generators, and none of them are out in public. You don't see them on eBay. You won't see them here or there, you know, and yet there are millions of them out there, really large ones out there, yeah, yeah. They're real, and they're on, yeah, and most of them are located in major cities in the United States, yeah. I know 5 people who were caught putting them in Boulder and Denver. And that was in the mid-'80s when I was deeply involved in that process. And it was brought to my attention that these things are coming in. They're being brought into the states and into cities, and they're being planted, and they're building bigger ones and smaller ones and being put into buildings as they're being built. Yeah? And it's been going on, yeah, since the early 30s. You can see gargoyles on buildings and things like that, all kinds of things that you go, wow, you know, what's the energy behind that? You know, well, that was just a buildup until they get to these radionic type energetic forms that manifest out a very strong negative pattern, yeah, that creates all kinds of chaos. And it mainly affects the lower nature of people, you know, like, I have to live in New York. I can't get out of New York, you know, you know, despite the traffic or anything, yeah. There's a process that moves people to be where they're at in chaos and not away from it. Somehow they settle into chaos and they deny the truth that they should really be in the forest, yeah, and they die there. Yeah, because on a day-to-day basis, this energy is pushing us around into false destiny, called manifest destiny, our own manifest destiny. We're not with God. Yeah, and we have dharma, we have karma, and when we're in dharma, we have a relationship with God that directs us, moves us through life, and protects us, and gives us, enough information to, like, you don't feel like living here, you don't need that boss, and this your own self saying it, because it's your higher self, it's your soul, standing up for yourself, and just going, I can't live in this condition. I can't, it's okay inside the house, but when I go outside, it's just, oh my God, how is this happening to me? Yeah. And it's just because we have an elemental process that shuts out memory, and it alters it into a fantasy. And we play out a fantasy, and we play out a fantasy thinking we're going to buy a house, and that house is going to become $1 million, and we're going to go up 15% every time we buy a house, and we'll always go up this ladder, and we're going to get a job, and they're going to give us more money in 5 years, and 5 more years they're going to give us more, and then we're going to retire with all this money. It's bullshit. Yeah, because it really doesn't quite end up like that. Yeah, things happen. You can have a virus, everything shut down, and all of a sudden we don't, And if we're not prepared in the right way, we're moved by all these things that move us to have desires that we don't need, to have to go to the mall and buy all those things. We don't need to have 1 million divorces in our life. Yeah, to be attracted to the wrong people. Why? Yeah, is there a machine that does that? Are there witches that do that? Yes, they actually get paid for it. They'll put spells on people. They'll create relationships. They'll get rid of a relationship. They'll tell you they can make you money, a better job, all those things. Those are spells, influences that bind people into an element, of manifest destiny. You're manifesting your own destiny, and you're paying the witch to get there. Or you're going to astrology to what? Manifest destiny, so you can read your own tea leaves. It's not good, folks. It's not good. Yeah, I'm Jesus Christ, and I'm telling you, it's not good. Yeah, if you have anything like that in your house, if you have tarot, if you have anything like that, get rid of it. Don't pass it on to someone else. Get rid of it. Yeah, just don't think about it. Just get rid of it. Yeah, and then let your soul continue, because you got to get rid of stuff that's coming from all that I'm talking about. People get attracted because of this dark force. It makes us a different person. Yeah, and on a little level, we are not doing well. On a big level, there are things against us in the process of us ever being well. Yeah, we have no hope for real insurance. We have no real hope for a health program. We have no real hope for homeless people. No real hope, for people who, can't get a job after they've been to college and they owe $120,000 for their college course. And they're living in their car, because, and you've heard it all the things I talk about. Yeah, there's a reason behind all of that. Yeah, and I'm not to raise people up and change the world and make a magic act out of this, but I'm telling you what it is I'm working against. I'm working against these psychic forces. Yeah, and they're heavy duty right now. They're very effective, very focused, very intentional.
The smallest psychotronic devices, the simplest ones, pose the greatest threat.
There are many varied functions for each type, and each one is designed for a specific purpose. And also probably depending on the distance at which it could work. Some of them can work with any distance.
Up until this point, KGB and paranormal researchers have been dependent on a handful of psychics. But with psychotronic generators, any KGB agent could unleash this psychic power with the push of a button. With the fall of the Berlin Wall and communism, the Soviet Union was on the brink of total collapse. With government security no longer in place, psychotronic generators were now out in the open for anyone to use. In August 1991, hardline communists attempted to regain control of the Russian government. Russia's newly elected president, Boris Yeltsin, stood against the coup.
I had a very funny request from a guy who is in charge of a military lab in the Ukraine, and he told me, this guy, that there would be an attempt on Yeltsin's life using a special generator which could damage Mr. Yeltsin's health and probably kill him.
There are strong rumors that Yeltsin himself was attacked by psychics and psychotronic weapons.
Their goal? Trigger a heart attack, possibly even to murder Yeltsin and bring the growing democratic revolution that he inspired to a halt. Psychic healers like Alexei Krivatov came to Yeltsin's defense, acting as bodyguards and safeguarding his health. Ultimately, the coup failed.
He is a very sick man, yet he continues to carry on through his illnesses, and every time he is revived. Some people believe that Yeltsin is no longer the person he was back in 1991. Some people believe that Yeltsin is something like a zombie that is being used by people in his circle.
A disturbing veil of lawlessness has settled over the former Soviet Union. Under these circumstances, former KGB agents and Soviet scientists are selling secrets on the black market. What was once secret Soviet research now goes to the highest bidder.
Currently in Russia, it's very hard to know what's happened to the psychotronic generators. Our friend Edward Naumov had warned about this because he said there was no agreement in any of the arms deals to deal with anything of this in this realm.
Министерство обороны СССР, КГБ,
The Ministry of Defense, the KGB, and other organizations did build psychotronic generators. I know that over 500 million rubles were spent in developing psychotronic equipment.
Вот теперь возникает вопрос.
Which brings up the question,
Где
where are all these devices?
Yep. So the process is that these psychotronic devices, millions of them, large and small, and even the small ones are very, very dangerous, very, very effective. Yeah. And I'm talking really small, the size of a matchbox, even smaller. And you can't really tell what they are when you see them. They look like a mechanical device rather than anything else. And now when we get to computers and software and other things, they could be made very small and very, very, very powerful and very, very accurate. And they could be tested as to whether or not they're effective. So if they start to not be effective, you can replace them. That's the level that they're at now in Russia in psychotronic reality. So that's what goes on in America. It's all over in the United States. It's all over in other countries. So if Putin travels to China, you can imagine he's putting it in the governmental areas that he can better affect that government. And he does the same thing here and there. Now, they're all coming out of one location, out of Putin's location. This is where psychotronics coming out of Russia. So the mind of what's ruling this thing is the Russian mind. You know, their thought right now is that I need to be ruler for life. And the people will go along with this. And they did in China, they did in Korea, yeah, and they did in Russia. You know, so, and just so happens they're all being led by the same psychotronic generators, you know, out of the same organization, yeah. So, and I'm going to show you this in the CIA way of how this works in relationship to our national relationships to these countries and how we maintain ourselves in getting information, you know, for terrorism or things like that. We have to have a good relationship with other countries. They have to trust us in order to call us up and say, we just heard from an informant that such and such is going down. You know, you should maybe be aware, you know. But if you have a president who takes that information and walks into an office in Russia and tells them secret information about Syria, and the next day you find out, oh, you what? And that information is now gone on to, you know, ISIS and everybody else who Russia is giving weapons to and are constantly in connection with. So Russia is very interested in making sure that this chaos pattern is manifested, yeah? You know, so let's take a look. In Russia's situation, you have Putin is the focus, yeah, and he wants to control China. He wants to be the power of the world, and so does everybody else. So does Korea, so does China, and so does Mr. Trump. You know, you know, right now he wants to be on Mount Rushmore. You know, so that's how crazy this guy is. Yeah, but all of this is coming in through psychogenic generators. So it's creating a destiny, not an individual destiny, but a planetary destiny, a plan that is generated in a destiny that like-minded political people that uses psychic energy to control the people, use mind washing, yeah, to control, which has always been going on. Yeah, they've always go into countries and either beat people or do shit to have control over them. And mind control is the most fluid, easiest way, because that way they think they're the ones doing it. Yeah, they vote for you, they stand up for you, they carry flags, they tear down statues because that's what they're being told to do. Yeah, and it makes our president look like he's really becoming quite the president. He's stopping them from doing that. But he actually ushered them in to do such a thing. Yeah, yeah. You know, so there's an influence that goes on that creates chaos that is part of destiny. And that's how karma is misused. Karma is a science that's involved in action. And as you do something, you have a reaction behind it. It's in the law of the fabric of time. Yeah, so the Dark Lodge knows this. So by manipulating people to carry on low-minded attitude, drinking, eating, behavior, you know, then they themselves have this process going. They're susceptible. Yeah, as long as they're in that way, they're highly susceptible. So all these psychic generators are influencing whether we're doing music or whether we're doing movies. Well, no matter what we're doing, our creative avenue is affected by these psychic generators. Yeah. So in his case, Putin's case, he has these people.
Сделать благополучной всю землю. Мы уважаем нашего президента, и человек силы не может не уважать ту власть, которая присутствует.
These are the witches, and this is just one of millions throughout Russia.
Силы должны помогать власти и помогать стране и, соответственно, земле.
Сказать, что это не акция, а это круг силы. Акция все-таки у меня ассоциируется, когда люди ходят с плакатами, что-то кричат, да, и мало результата от этого. Это конкретное действие, магическое действие, направленное на то, чтобы улучшить качество жизни в России, на земле и, конечно, помочь президенту, да.
Поднимись с величием силы России, направь пути Владимира Путина верно и правильно, через слово мое. Задыши, земля мать, и всеми сторонами обнимая Россию.
Мы люди, которые имеют силу ведовства, то есть мы ведаем, мы глаголем, мы ведаем, мы говорим, как надо жить правильно. И поэтому этими словами, этим действием мы поддерживаем, мы говорим, мы призываем людей, мы открыты, и мы говорим о том, что живите, люди, правильно.
Сила изначальная, обрати в бегство тех, кто зла России желает. Да воспрянет Россия и отойдет от боли, нищеты и бед. И грядущие дни раскроют России врата к радости. Воистину! Воистину!
Interesting. Now, this is the process that's given by the CIA as to how we deal with other countries and how we should behave in order to be safe, you know, by talking and having good, safe communications with other people. In other words, when they tell us a secret, we keep that secret. We don't walk into a Russian office and tell the evilest people on the planet, you know, information that actually leads right back to the people that you're talking about, yeah? Because in this situation, you'll see that Russia is highly involved in a particular way.
In reality, the U.S. relies on a web of intelligence sharing agreements with other countries. The best known of these is the Five Eyes Agreement between the U.S., Canada, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Australia. But the U.S. also gets intel from countries that are geographically closer to terrorism hotspots.
Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Turkey, Israel.
These countries often have agents undercover inside groups like ISIS.
They get something valuable, they trust us with it. That could be an intercept of a phone call, drone imagery showing somebody that one country is looking for. It could be a plot.
That was the case in 2010, when intelligence sharing between the US and 6 other countries stopped an al-Qaeda plot to bomb 2 cargo planes en route to the US.
And what makes it all work, what kind of like greases that relationship, is trust. They believe that if they tell us a secret, that's safe.
One of the most important of these intelligence sharing relationships is the one between the United States and the Israelis. So when the Israelis found out about a specific threat from ISIS, that they planned to use laptops to bomb airplanes, the New York Times reports that the Israelis shared that information with the US, with the understanding it would stay secret. But the Washington Post reports that President Trump shared that information with the Russian foreign minister during his visit to the US. And in doing so, he seriously jeopardized that relationship with the Israelis. To understand why, you have to back up a little bit and look at what Russia is doing in Syria. President Trump has said Russia is a key ally in the fight against ISIS there.
I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world, right? Major fight, that's a good thing.
Promise.
Now, the thing is that Russia is the financial supporter to these countries. Yeah, they get all their money, they get their support. We can put tariffs on them and everything, but Russia's behind the back gives support to these people. They give nuclear ability to Iran. They supported them in the process of developing nuclear. They support them by giving them tanks and giving them rockets and giving them all these things. Yeah, so you know, this president is talking to the guy who is in charge of ISIS, who supports ISIS, funds ISIS, yeah, and he's unaware of it. He's the president of the United States, and he's unaware of it. I'm just the guy sitting here in Kelseyville who has a good line with CIA and other influences of what goes on in the world, you know, but he should not be under any other information. Yeah, the difficulty is that he can't be trusted. Yeah, CIA can't trust him. FBI can't trust him. Yeah, because if you go against him, he'll fire you, and the goodness that you've got going on for 20 years has just been wiped away. You know, so people who go in the CIA go there forever. You know, and all you need is some idiot coming in from Russia, you know, that comes in and undeniably starts picking at the leaders of Superior Court, of CIA, of Attorney Generals, of all these people, picking them, pulling them out, as though, you know, he knows what he's doing. Even putting the Vice President in charge of the coronavirus task force. He's not a doctor. He's not even a librarian. I mean, he has no background whatsoever to make a decision. And he's supposed to be the one who studies and researches and communicates with all the doctors and all of science. But he has no relationship to science. If you ask him, why don't you wear a mask? No relationship to science. We just say everybody has the right to choose. Yeah. So there's the influence that's coming in on these people is coming from the influence of what's happening through Russia. And it's affecting, this energy. This energy that we think that the world is fine and dandy and all is great. But there is more to this. If you study the reality of Trump and the religion, the cult-like religion that surrounds him, that cult-like religion that put him into office, they did it because they believe there has to be an Armageddon. Not good. Which fosters Russia to deal with Iran and Iran to get what they're getting and missiles to be fired off. And these are the only people who got missiles is Iran, China, North Korea now, and Russia. So this is not a non-serious thing. There's literally religious fanatics pushing for an Armageddon. And they're saying it has to happen before I come out and help people. And that's insane. That's not what's pushing me out. I've been dealing with this since I was a kid. I've been dealing with this in every life. So really it's about whether or not people can come to cope with what's going on and, maybe make some major changes. Because this is bigger than you think. It has a direct effect on the process of reincarnation. And you don't know anything about, what your life can be like if you weren't messed with this psychic energy during your transition cycle, while you're trying to transition. You come back in not a good way. You come back deeply, affected. You can come back, so many things off in how you think and how you believe and illnesses that you carry that you're more susceptible now than ever before in a lifestyle that you're much more gluttonous and much more, in many ways, selfish. And that affects the whole working out of God's plan, your good karma, moving things more and more and more toward dharma, which is the outcome of God's plan. So, and that happens by us counteracting this psychic force. So I'm just telling you this because we're in a deep, and it's not going to make a major hell on earth. It's not going to, Armageddon's not going to happen, and, even though there's a lot that goes on in order to make it happen. There's been a lot. There's Cuba, it was supposed to happen then. There was other times we all built bunkers in our houses in the 60s because it was supposed to happen then. It didn't happen because of Umwa. There's a lot of stuff that was on a direct path of manifestation, which is not happening, and it's not going to happen. But the process of chaos comes into our emotional body, and that affects our physical well-being and whether or not we can take charge of what we're eating and take charge of the kind of house we need to live in, making decisions, discernment, discrimination, common sense. That's the quality behind the Holy Spirit that comes into a healthy mind, comes into healthy senses. So my main interest is to raise everybody up into that, by creating purification against these beings. Knowing who they are, and knowing where they come from, and knowing their past incarnations, that has a lot can be done in order to change them. There's other psychic forces that has been developed, that can work and develop to counteract that. My work with these pyramids, my work with my weavers, such as this, that little gadget right there, has a major effect on counteracting these psychic forces that get into people and make people kind of like zombie-like, make people kind of like just sick and habitual, and they can't really pull out of it. They think, oh, I'm more like my mom, or I'm more like my aunt, because the other person was also in the same boat, and they can't pull out of it. So I made all these sciences to give people the ability to overthrow their solar plex, to make themselves less solar plex and more heart. So every time a person, and we get a lot of people that order these tools and listen to the music and buy the pyramids, and every time that goes on, those people, they're with it for a long time. This lasts. They listen to the music forever, all night long, all day long. It's not like rock and roll or anything else. It's not a church. It's not any kind of belief system. It's actually a psychic influence that protects your ass from the ongoing process of your own self-centeredness and your own weaknesses, and then from the things outside of you that are affecting you, making you weaker, and redirecting your position in life. What it is your good karma. You might have great insights about a whole lot of things. You've been incarnating for tens of thousands of years. Who built the pyramids? Who were the great physicians and physicists and astronomers of the past? Were all the people. Everybody was well educated during the Sumerian time. All the way back to 50,000 years ago. So all of humanity has a God consciousness built into their system. It's just a matter of what I'm doing is radiating that into it, but it comes from sacred geomancy, from applied geometric forms. And there's no weird thought can come out of it, because the thought comes from God. It's created by God, So the thought form building that comes out of it dispels glamours that are lesser thoughts that are not coming from God. And you have no idea they're not coming. You think everything is coming from God, and it should be. There shouldn't be all this crap. But there is. And when you get hit by these elemental evil spirit forms, they have a direct effect on your ability to keep your Holy Spirit. And it's that energy that these psychotronic influences are bringing about, just to increase people's lower psychic ability. So when they first came out, we would have cults. We had Bhagwan, we had Muktananda, we had Sai Baba. They all came to America. We had all kinds of people following mediums and going off to Summit Lighthouse, and talking to all the masters and channeling and, walk-ins, extraterrestrials. It just went on. And all of it was from these psychic generators, increasing people's desire to become psychic. So they would hire a Reiki, and I'd want to be a Reiki master. All of it connected to the same psychic belief system that we have these powers. And those are lesser psychic powers. Higher psychic powers are the ability to have common sense, the ability to know the difference between a lie and not a lie. It should be ringing like a great big bell. Just you feel it, you're uncomfortable, you're ready to throw up. Your body should react to things that are intentionally to take you off the course of your life. Because your life is set by dharma. And it's very strong, and it's patterned, and it's preset under the grace of God. So if we're aligned in that, and if we have anything come in to take off of that, it would create a great big healing crisis. So the main thing is that we're weak. That's why all we have is all the time is a healing crisis. We think our life is a healing crisis. We're just degenerating as time goes on, in the middle of a constant healing crisis. And we expect it to happen. Alzheimer's, it's just senility, just like grandma and grandpa, great-grandpa. They all get old like that, and they all start talking like babies. That's the way we think that it's supposed to happen, and it is not. It's all being done by lower psychicism. So You know me from the past, where I'm known as Jesus and heal a lot of people and raise the dead and all that. I do that, yeah? But I'm going to do it through ascension in this life, yeah? And raising people up through the process of saving the nations, healing the nations. The science that I'm pulling off is very specific. I'm only telling you this just so that you know that this is going on. This is an active activity that Christ is involved in, and it's not about a religion or some other thing. It's about the fact that the Russians, who is Putin, and a whole bunch of others who are using lower psychicism and machines in order to control, and as they say, how are they controlling the vote? How is Russia being able to do such a thing? Well, I'm explaining. This is how it's done. And unless we come to grips with this is really what they're meaning, and not the internet or emails or persuading people on Twitter and on Facebook, but this is the real thing. And all the rest is just, yeah, I'm going to write this thing on Twitter. Oh, yeah, I'm going to behave like this on Facebook. That's just an expression. Yeah, has nothing compared to the influence of what it's really coming from. Yeah, and if you know anybody who does tarot and has any mediumship whatsoever, that influences your weakness. Yeah, and it influences the weakness of all of mankind to not really know about what is a vote, what is it I'm doing, what effect. All of that is gone. The reality of collective consciousness and collective will, common sense, and not being individual assholes, yeah, but people who are very much alike, like brothers and sisters, from the same womb, yeah. I don't care if you're black or green or purple, we're the same brother and sister, yeah. It just comes down to that. Yeah, so this healing is for that energy. And the other process of Putin is for the power of separation. Yeah, and give us lower psychicism and things like that. So, now I'm just going to finish this. Here, I don't think I did. Yeah, let me finish what he had to say.
In reality, the U.S. relies on a web doing in Syria. President Trump has said Russia is a key ally in the fight against ISIS there.
I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world, major fight, that's a good thing.
The problem is that in Syria, Russia's goal is not to fight ISIS. Russia's goal is to protect Bashar al-Assad. Russia fights ISIS only insofar as it sees ISIS as a threat to Bashar al-Assad.
And one of Russia's main partners in this objective is Iran, who the Israelis consider to be their greatest threat in the region.
The greatest danger that we face of the hatred for the Jewish people and the Jewish state comes from the East. It comes from Iran.
For months, Israeli spies have expressed this fear that any intelligence they share with the U.S. could end up, via Russia, in the hands of the Iranians. And now those fears have been confirmed.
If they no longer trust the CIA, that means that the plot that might have otherwise been stopped or disrupted potentially happens, because they don't trust that if they tell it to us, it won't go to an enemy of theirs.
And it's not just Israel. Now other allies may become wary of sharing intelligence with the U.S. Without trust, these intelligence-sharing relationships break down. And without these relationships, it's harder for U.S. intelligence officials to do the very thing Trump says he wants to accomplish: defeat ISIS and disrupt terror plots.
Yep. So that's an outcome. Imagine the influence, the plan influence, the desire, of domination. If you study more of Vlad, if you study him a bit more, you'll see that he has domination in his plan, whether it be Africa or other places. And supporting the idea of domination, working with Iran or working with China, who has the same idea of domination, then it becomes a body of a group, yeah, and they don't have to be communists anymore. They're just dictators, yeah, and they band together, you know, to support each other, and they slowly but surely create enough chaos to manifest into the world. Now, this is their desire, you know, to make the world weak enough to be submissive to, and using psychic energy, this is something you can't say, oh, you're doing this, you know, when you're manipulating the president and when you're manipulating, you know, the previous president of Russia to become weak and ill, and all of a sudden it pushes up the guy who has the greatest interest in these psychic generators and world domination, you know, and Putin, you know. So the influence of Putin having, you know, all of them having this desire body, this outcome, has a great deal to do with the will aspect of humanity. You know, here God, in the beginning, you know, God gave everybody will, yeah, free will, yeah, and that free will gives us everlasting life. That's the purpose of it, yeah. You have no idea that it exists. You have free will. You reincarnate because of it. You have free will because you love being here. You loved while you were here. Yeah, that accumulates inside of you, and you will yourself to come back. Yeah, you have free will in a bigger way than you ever can imagine. You have free will over life and death. You have free will. That's what God gave you. Yeah. Now all we got to do is just focus on our lifestyle. Yeah, because we, you know, once we come to understand, you know, that we are not in free will. You know, we're not really in free will. You know, we have to meditate and we have to do things, clarify, not drink. You know, we have to eat right. You know, we can, you know, all weaknesses can make us a weaker person. Yeah, and you know, it makes it really hard to get ahead in life. Yeah, but in the process of healing, we go from this life to our next life. Yeah. So whatever time we're going to be on Earth, yeah, the amount of time that we're going to be on Earth, if we foster our growth of our heart and our growth of making choices while they're happening to us. Here we are, we're in a coronavirus. We have to vote for an asshole who's obviously led by extreme dominating assholes of world dictators that we can't even believe exist. Most people are unaware that that happened in Russia, unaware that that happened in China. They just think, well, just another president, you know, just, you know, but it's not that way. You know, these are the same people of Mussolini and Hitler. You know, they're the same, just reincarnating, yeah. So they don't lose that, and it has a direct effect on society because they want to harm society and use society for their own outcome. You know, so that's going to change your destiny, change your karma, you know, have a major effect on your soul, yeah, because it's stepping in the way of all your goodness that God gave you. And, you know, Jesus died for you, yeah. There's a lot that's gone on in the light. And if we use and come to understand the light and know that, you know, Jesus is the only one that's going to get you through this process, yeah, and take that relationship and move that into meditation, you know, and use of tools or whatever we can do to foster that, we will change the influence of what's coming down. Because the more it's coming in, the more I'm putting out. And the more people move more toward, you know, maybe Christ is on earth. Maybe this is really a big Armageddon potentiality of craziness. You know, these are all signs of total ridiculous. Yeah. And how could it be like this? Yeah. And yet at the same time, we're at a place where this is about the time of the coming of the Christ. And on the lighter side, we have to really take that into effect. That this is the time of the coming of the Christ. And this is the time for the healing of the world. Transition. You know, where people all of a sudden, I'm not going to vote for him. They're all of a sudden going to say, I'm not interested in Tarot. I'm not interested in all these divination situations that makes me susceptible to these psychic machines that are sent out by Russia. And drinking in the bars and doing all those things that make us waste our vital energy of soul. You know, makes us much more susceptible to these psychic generators that can only influence our emotions and lower mind. That's it. Yeah? Our lower desire body, and then the bad karma that comes from it. Yeah? We pay the price, and we take the blame. You know? Everybody walks around, oh, what a wasted life, and really you're just being pressured under these influences to create chaos. And yet that the purpose for my incarnation is to get people out of that process, and you can literally walk out of it. Walk out of it, because even if you die, as long as you know that I'm incarnated and I'm never going to go away, I'm in this group of Tibetans, this little group here. We find each other. All of us Tukus get found. So we don't have a thing about not being incarnated. We have a thing about being incarnated, yeah? And we transmit our previous incarnation into the existing body of the one that just incarnated, yeah? So there's no missing process, no transmission of missing process. And since I'm the one that originated this, I hold it in a safe zone and help to protect by creating Lamaism. And it's not that those people are the hierarchy of the highest of the highs, but it is my outcome. It's my work. It's what I do. I've created the situation. They've created an alternative situation. This one's the Dark Lodge. This one's the White Lodge. I do not include Catholics. I do not include the Pope. I actually don't include the Dalai Lama. But I do include my work, And there's a whole lot of Rinpoches and children out there and old men and women out there who are my direct closest friends from previous lives, thousands of them. And they're all Rinpoches who reincarnate with enlightenment in their being. Yeah? Yeah? And, so that's what I'm depending on. And that's the influence that these lost ones are now being found. I'm finding all the young children. I'm helping them through their previous incarnation into the present incarnation. So I've been catching them over the last 3 incarnations and keeping the hierarchy growing in numbers, which staggeringly makes a big difference in the process of the Dark Lodge. Yeah, because we're just hidden little children. We're not recognized in society. We're just children that grow up to be masters. Yeah, but we recapitulate from previous lives of goodness, which every single person could do. So we're just like a process where it's been done, we worked on it, we proved it works, now we're the manifestation of it, and because we've manifested it, we now have great faith in the process of telling you that if you follow this, this will work and you'll be saved. And if you study the energy of Buddhism, you'll find out that Buddha himself was a disciple of Jesus Christ, and he prophesied the coming of Jesus Christ and told everybody he was not the one that they should focus on, that there'd be another one coming, and gave all the description of Jesus Christ and said that that's the one who is the Savior. So it was after that process and the coming of Jesus Christ, all of this came to an enormous war. Yeah. So from that point on, my work was furthered in Tibet through Padmasambhava, through other masters and students, and it went on for 2,000 years. Yeah. And these are all these children, all these people, grown-ups and all, are all back living in this world. And none of them are part of, what's going on under this channeling. They're completely in a different realm of existence, yeah? And they're all in process of transmitting the influence of the mind of Buddha, rather than the mind of channeling that could come from the Dalai Lama or could come from the Pope, because you simply cannot discern or discriminate a false prophet. And if the masters can't do that, then we're in deep shit, yeah? So I can do that, and all my masters are learning to do that. Yeah, so we've accomplished great things in Tibet. over the last 3 years. Yeah, and out of that, we'll have an enormous number of people blessed throughout America and around the world who leave their body and come back and are completely free of their karmic process, simply because their curse has been cured. And this will continue going on, life after life after life, and people will continue getting blessed and their curse released. So that there is no Armageddon. There is no nuclear holocaust that'll come our way. All in the nick of time, I'm telling you. But it is a process, and trust me, there is no Armageddon. There is no major holocaust. There is no major earth disaster. This whole thing is set in right relationship due to the ley lines and the blessing of Christ and the influence of dharma, and that the influence of God has all influence over all kingdoms. And the only problem we have is that we've given up that power. We are no longer the caretakers of that power, and we let lower nature and other things, fear, all of that, get in our way of having the strength in our heart to raise the dead and heal the sick and do all the things I could do, you could do. And until you get to that point, we're never going to be happy. So my job is just to heal everybody to get to the point to where I am at a place to where we can be at a one-to-one relationship, and I can get closer to helping people, because I give you an etheric weaver so you can learn that you heal people. You can. All you got to do is have Christ in your life, and Christ will heal the person. But you're the one who's choosing the etheric weaver. You're the one who's choosing to give it to the person. So there's a relationship going on. And you bring that together, and that starts that relationship throughout life. It's not a religion, but it's a science. So by raising things up into the heart through the science, it changes everything in the earth. Because when we use this science, we heal what's below our feet. And what's affecting that is the evil nature that's been brought up from terrestrial realms by these warlocks and witches that then controls us like automatons, in the process of life. And we're completely in this delusions, facilitating delusions of grandeur, whether it be kings or queens or presidents or whatever. So the process is the puja and the invocation. So we're going to do the invocation. It's a simple invocation, and all it does is just aligns us to the reality that this is a sacred planet, and that this planet is under the power of God. And so we invoke the power, the love, the wisdom of our ashram, which is the earth, and all the galaxies and everything with it, and the monad, which is the mind of God. So, and then guide me into the right activity in the plan, clarify and stimulate my mind, transform and transmute my feelings and emotions, energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there's a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. To this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the one. This is the relationship of, I'd like to receive a healing from you, Jesus. This is what this is. So you got to kind of go to that place where Jesus is at, and Jesus is in the center of the ashram. Jesus is the guru. Jesus is Christ. So out of that, Jesus will heal your mind, will activate the plan, will stimulate your feelings to be a better person, and change everything in life as it goes about, all in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So it's an invocation, that aligns us to the future, and it's all working out of a plan that's done by the constant reincarnation of Christ. And up to these days, we don't know that that's been going on, and people who have attended my darshans, they're becoming more well aware, that I have a lot of lives, and that the entire history of this planet is based on my lives. Everything about this planet is based on my lives. So when we take refuge, we're taking refuge into Earth's service. So my work is to help people disengage from the delusions of selfish service and all the many other levels of deluded service. that don't really exist. They're all there for self-gain. Yeah, and once you pass through it, you find out you never get it. It was a waste of time. You harmed other people. Everything was wrong. So it's emptiness. It's the middle way. That really is the outcome. So the process of these pujas is to instill in people the influence of the pujas that are given to the masters. The reason why they put this on me, is because of my pujas. The words that I say in my invocations, even these simple pujas that you go, the Great Invocation and this and that. But if you really listen intently, this is Jesus Christ, in the halls of the highest halls of Tibet, in Buddha's place where Buddha came and took teachings from Jesus Christ, and received those teachings, and then those were passed on as Jesus gave his life in teaching, but it actually comes from the future, coming from the future, so everything that we're doing now, everything has an impression on everything from the past, and it can all come back through recapitulation. So by them enthroning me in this way, it enthrones every living person. Does that make sense? No one can be defiled, after this average mortal man out of California, kind of thing. It's the wildest thing you can ever imagine. But the psychicism was so great. They were actually able to find Jesus and crown Jesus in every single monastery in Tibet and get away with it. Even though in the gossip side of things, he did it in China in a place that they don't believe in God. So something overshadowed even them to allow him to walk into China, stand in all the monasteries, and claim himself to be Jesus Christ, Buddha Maitreya. And China was there at the time. So there's a great deal of possibility that the influences on a political realm is not what it seems in China. It's not what it seems. People in China are a great number of people who are Buddhist, and their influence under their past lives, under the influence of Buddhism. So they hold a lot of lineage to the Buddhic lineage tree, the influence of many different types, Tao, Zen, Kung Fu, all the types of Buddhism you can possibly ever imagine all stem from that particular area. And all the people were the students or the children or the, people of that particular lineage, So that's something that's not thought about in Russia, because they're antichrist. They don't believe in that kind of stuff, But the truth is that that's the way it is in America, and that's the way it is in China, And that both these two places were very sacred in their ancient ways, and that the place of America are people who came from China and merged in with the people of the American Indians and brought about greater peace and greater understanding as to how to build a nation in the United States. So they built all kinds of communities, they built temples, they built all kinds of things, because Chinese was inside the mountains. Buddhists were sitting inside the mountains, meditating, not going outside, not letting anybody know that they're there, but meditating, living hundreds of years and generations where their bodies would be found inside these caves, all in the Grand Canyon, all found and held by the CIA, Thousands and thousands of masters lived in America, came from Tibet during 600, all the way to around 1100, and that's when everybody dispersed and left, because this place was to be attacked soon, So there's an enormous connection between China and America, enormous, and it's going to be fostered. It's going to be an awakening, that can't be fostered in Russia, can't be fostered in most other nations, but it will be fostered in the process between these two elements, and that's why I was able to be enthroned in Tibet and do the things that I did without being stopped, and still carry on what I need to do in Nepal and not be stopped. And Nepal is very connected to China. And yet there's nothing they're doing to stop me. They don't like the Dalai Lama because the Dalai Lama is who he is. Yeah. So there's something not known, not understood in the process of our past that makes the outcome of our future not go the way the Dark Lodge plans. Because the masses of humanity are actually in the White Lodge. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So just in doing that, just to help you understand, when we do the invocations, there is planetary process involved in this, and it's my understanding of the soul's achievements in each nation. And so I spend my time and energy blessing those qualities to come out as soon as possible and have a major effect on the rest of what's going on. So these pujas that we're going to do right now is for that. Okie dokie. And this is the Great Invocation. All right. So just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, we'll just all do Om together. Take a deep breath.
Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May humanity of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all mankind be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us do our part. I invoke the secret place come forth. And come, say, come forth, O Mighty One. Let the souls of mankind awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of the woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, a purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of mankind, let the plan of love and light work out. And may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. The sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not to hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and let life and all events and bring forth to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight, Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavage be gone. Let love prevail. Let all mankind love.
Okay, just relax. And open your eyes. All right. So that's known as the Great Invocation. Yeah, I helped to establish that in the 1930s, and I gave stanzas that are 3 different stanzas that are involved in the process of helping to further my incarnation as Christ, because there's going to be a lot of problems. There's all kinds of channelers out there saying that Maitreya is not the incarnation of Jesus the Christ, and that Buddha is not anything to do with Jesus. You know, a lot of things that are wrong and very misinformed. And so there was a lot of preparation for that to happen prior to my incarnation. So I set up a lot of teaching and established a lot of teaching to bring about those teachings, so I would be able to gather them in this incarnation and use them in the process of establishing many of my pujas. So that particular one, the Great Invocation, is based on that period of time. And all the rest are based on invocations and meditations and things that I gave to the disciples of Dwal Kul, and to influence the reality of their next incarnation, because all of those disciples sat with Jesus Christ in the life of Jesus Christ. So they happened to be incarnated, and they were given the opportunity to have a direct connection with the coming of Christ and receive teachings about their rays and about the science of God and all kinds of things that I needed to get onto the earth, so that I would then have those as my form of education. I would recapitulate through those teachings. So a lot of this is done that way. And in my incarnation, I incarnated in a Blackfoot Cherokee family. Yeah, so pretty Indian, very Indian. Yeah, and my dad was, about as Indian as you can get, just a very, very, very dark Indian with all the Indian features you can ever imagine. And everybody else in my dad's side was looking like that. So it was a novel scenario. Yeah, but it also gave me a connection on a psychic connection inside the human race that was very different than everybody else in America. You know, I was born in a genetically much purer line of people, a lineage line of people that are directly connected to the United States and having lived here for over 40,000 years. And that major group of people live in this location. They're the oldest ones, yeah. And they're the most peaceful of all the Indians, yeah. And along the coast of California are the most peaceful Indians. Tillamook Indians, you know, the higher up into the Washington Range, into Canada, along this coastline was an extremely indigenous, naturally peaceful group of Indians. And it's further into inland that there were tribal restrictions and all kinds of things that took place. But it wasn't the same in the people that I incarnated in. Yeah, they were more along the line of this group. So it allowed me a great deal of genetic receptivity to the type of teaching that I need to be given out. Yeah, the teaching of earth, the teaching of healing, the teaching of the Father, the teaching of the Great Spirit. All of those things are, as I teach them, if you were to listen to elders of my nation, of the Native Americans, they would sound very much the same. Yeah, so that relationship helps the recapitulation process of America, because there were over 20 million, you know, in Native Americans living in America, you know, and went up to 120 million at the times of when they were really full, you know. So, and all of them had to be killed. They're not here anymore, yeah, you know. So they die and they reincarnate. So the chances are that the people who, even if you're from England or Norway or Germany or wherever you're from, chances are that you are actually a reincarnated Native American, and you live here because of your aboriginal relationship to the land. And because of that, it doesn't matter who your mother or your father was, and the genetic connections that you have to this curse, you have much less potential if you're drawn back to America as an aspect of your recapitulation, you know, because that's where you come from. Doesn't matter what race you are or anything, you're Native American, yeah, as far as I can see it. Yeah, so, yeah, so, and I'm now working with the major tribes of the Native Americans. I'm going to begin my process of coming out and teaching large masses of people, but they'll be Native Americans, just like it did in Tibet. They're Tibetans. Yeah. Well, I'm doing the same thing with Native Americans. So Lakota right now is having a great big process over the fact that White Eagle, which is what they call me, White Eagle is incarnated, which is the avatar for the American Indian. Yeah, and that is a major prophecy inside of Native Americans. So the fulfillment of that prophecy, you know, it's like the white buffalo and all these different things, the fulfillment of prophecy of peace that will come to all Native Americans, and everything will come back into the way that it's meant to be, is part of the prophecy of the Native American. First it gets really bad, then it comes back. Yeah. So this is the time of the return. This is the time where, even though it looks bad, even though Trump's doing what he's doing and all this is going on, this is more the combined nature of America. Yeah. Our elders are Native Americans, and those Native Americans established those Americans. Those historical Americans were the brothers of Native Americans, reincarnated Native Americans. Yeah, Washington, yeah, Lincoln, you know, all originally come from the foundation and the governing body of the Native American. We created the Constitution, the preamble, everything is based on Native American ways of thinking, the way we communicate, the way we usher through how to work as a tribe or as a unit. We call it nation, yeah? Just like United States, we called our places states because there were states of consciousness. There were different, each state had a different state of consciousness, and we knew this. So this was Illinois, this is Nebraska, you know, this is everything has its own relative reality. You know, so when they named the states, they used Native Americans in order to establish the names of these states and establish the borderlines of the states. Yeah. So there's a great deal of influence in the making of America as in actually not taking it away from the Native Americans, but the Native Americans coming back into the body who came back to America and slowly but surely are recapitulating, and they're going to heal from the curse that has dominated the whole planet. And that will free everybody else, because all the people who are here are from Germany or Africa or whatever, you know, and they're connected to those nations. But their root system is what's going to heal those nations. The light that comes from America and from the inner blessing that comes out of this particular continent, of all continents. Yeah, this is the continent of Christ. Yeah, it's hidden from all the world for a very, very long time, for a reason, because it's the place of the Lord. Yeah, and it's the place where the Lord could heal the nations through a single nation. Yeah, and that's the influence of what's going on right now. So, enjoy. Peace.